You're listening to the Fayetteville 411 podcast produced by the City of Fayetteville, where you will get information about city government and the programs and services we provide. You'll get topics of interest and an inside look into the various departments that help keep our city moving. I'm John Salling.
And I'm Sherry Kropp, and thanks for joining us for the Fayetteville 411 podcast. Today, we have Devin Heath, the new CEO of DistiNCtly Fayetteville. It's a tourism and hospitality authority. Devin, thank you for joining us, and I'm really excited to meet you. I've heard a lot of wonderful things about you already. You're making very good impressions. But I want to give people an opportunity to learn about what DistiNCtly Fayetteville is, and then we're going to dive in and learn all about Devin Heath.
Well, thank you all. Thank you both for having us. We're so excited to be here and be part of this community. I've only been here about 2 months, but from the beginnings of just rediscovering Fayetteville for me, I've just been increasingly excited about being here. So thank you. DistiNCtly Fayetteville is what a lot of folks still probably remember, the Fayetteville Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. And in November of 22, we rebranded, and we are now DistiNCtly Fayetteville.
That's so much easier to say than...
So much easier. Although, we represent more than just Fayetteville. We represent all of Cumberland County. So it's a little hard to include all of that. The reason I think Fayetteville was selected as the name was because that's the recognizable city that this community is really recognized, although we do represent also all the other towns and the rest of the county. So, but we are the destination marketing organization. The Convention and Visitors Bureau acronym or industry is really a misnomer. And as an industry, we have moved towards destination marketing organizations. And that represents so much more of what we do. We do bring in conventions. We do bring in visitors, which is a component of our organization. But really, when you look at the full breadth of the work that a DMO does, it's really to help the community communicate to the world what that community is about. So it's the first leg. I like to sometimes refer to it as the first date when you're thinking about economic development in a community. The first time that you have been anywhere, it was as a visitor. And then if you have a good experience there as a visitor, you might consider moving there. You might consider bringing your business there, and you might get more invested into a community. But the first time that you go anywhere, it's as a visitor. And your impressions of a destination, when we think about any destination that we haven't been to yet, but we have an impression of that destination based off of the marketing that you see most often by the DMO. And that's what we do. So, the most common ones that are known are Vegas and Austin, keep Austin weird. And, that's their tagline. They go full in on that. And we need to identify what we are. What is it that we are? And so we're going to be doing some things in the next few months with the community. We want to bring the community to the table and have the community be a part of this to really decide what is it that we want to communicate to the world. And then once we understand that, we're going to focus on how do we communicate that.
And now you started as the new CEO in December 2023 here, and I understand that you bring a wealth of experience to the role. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what persuaded you to come to North Carolina and Fayetteville especially.
Yeah, so I have been in the tourism and hospitality field my whole career. Ever since when I was in college, I had an internship at a hotel. And so just fell in love with the industry, fell in love with the field. Really spent a lot of my time as a hotelier, worked my way up, did every position you could in a hotel at some form or fashion multiple times. Worked my way up to become a general manager and vice president of sales and services in the hotel world. Realized about 10 years ago now that I really was excited about the tourism side of it, working for what was then known as Convention and Visitors Bureaus and today as a destination marketing organization, and really being able to have an impact on a whole community. So I crossed over and worked at Richmond Region Tourism, which was the DMO for Richmond, Virginia, and really was excited about that and really wanted to do that more. Since then, I've worked with a couple of other DMOs as well, including Cobb County. I was on their board and worked with them. But I was still on the hotel side at that time, didn't get to work full time. And then had an opportunity to go to Natchez, Mississippi, which is a really interesting community. Very, very small, but tourism is huge there, has a tremendous impact, the number one industry in that community. And then this opportunity came up, and I was really excited about coming back to North Carolina for a number of reasons. One is I consider North Carolina my second home. I was born in Washington, D.C., but I've lived now in North Carolina 4 times. This is my 4th time in North Carolina, never in Fayetteville before now. My youngest son, actually was born in Cary, right up the road. So I've just loved this area, and I think it was God's way of saying this is where you need to be. So when this opportunity came up, and I did a lot more research in depth about this community, I said this is absolutely where I want to be.
Well, it sounds like you've held many, many positions, and you've got a wealth of experience that you're bringing into this new role here in Fayetteville. So what are some of the goals that you have for DistiNCtly Fayetteville? And being new here, have you seen any opportunities in making Fayetteville like that tourist destination and visitor destination?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that Fayetteville and Cumberland County has such a huge opportunity. We have so much to offer, so much that even our community, our local residents, don't realize that we have all of this. We don't have a good understanding of all of the activities that you can take part in. We have some of the best outdoor experiences. We have great cultural experiences. We have we have one of the top attractions in the state, the Airborne and Special Ops Museum. I was there recently for a lecture, just some fantastic resources and experiences. Certain things even like we don't realize that one of the pioneers in the African American community post-Civil War was born right here in Fayetteville, who I only found out about because there was a tie to him in Natchez, and that is the very first African American who was elected to either House of Congress. Hiram Revels was born right here in Fayetteville, North Carolina, and his 200th year birthday is coming up in 2027. I think there's some opportunities there and some ways that we can communicate. I didn't know about him, and my mother was a teacher growing up, and particularly teacher about history and African-American history, and she didn't know about him. And he's not talked about. And so I think that there's opportunities for us to communicate some of that, to bring more visitors in here, and to help expose the world, really, to who this gentleman was and the impacts that he had. So there's so many different experiences like that, not just about cultural heritage. We have a fantastic arts community, and the things that the Cool Springs District is doing downtown are just wonderful activations and ways to really get involved in the community. So how do we communicate that? How do we understand what it is that we are? We're not Austin. We're not Charleston. We're not Raleigh. We're not these other destinations. But what is it that we are, and how do we communicate that? So that's really going to be our big focus for how we go forward, is really getting the community together and talking through how is it that we want to proceed and what is it that we want to communicate to the world. So we're going to craft what that message is, because it shouldn't come from just our organization. It should come from this community. And so we're going to bring the community together, understand what that is, and then we're going to go forth and spread the good word.
Right, because there have been people that have lived here most of their lives, and they find out about hidden gems that we have here in Fayetteville, and they're like, I never knew that was here.
That's right.
Fayetteville really does have a lot to offer, and I'm so proud to say that it is very up and coming.
Absolutely.
We have made so much progress just in the last 10 years, and we've got some great plans. And it's great to have DistiNCtly Fayetteville as kind of like the gateway of getting all of that information out to people that might be considering to visit or even move here.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. We want to be a good partner in this community. We want to work with everyone. So one of the aspects that we really want to embellish upon more is how do we communicate more of these resources and aspects of our community to our community, to the residents here, because there's so many aspects of the community that the residents just aren't aware of. And so we're going to expend a lot of effort, a lot of initiatives to really communicate out all of those hidden gems, all of those activities and opportunities that folks can really take part in. And we really want the community to come out and to be a part of the experiences that are here, because it is so wonderful, especially when you have come from other destinations. And like myself, and I have a fresh eyes perspective, I think sometimes when you live here, you have that grass is always greener perspective. But as a fresh eyes person, I'm like a kid in a candy store. We have so much to offer. Oh my gosh, this is great. But we want to get the rest of the community to have that kind of enthusiasm. And so anytime that anybody has an idea or a recommendation, we want to hear it. Feel free to give us a call, shoot us an email, come on by, and we certainly want to involve the community.
And as we're talking about all of that activity, bringing the community together, how can the community find out more about you guys? Where can they reach out and interact here in the near future?
Sure. So a couple of ways. The easiest way is our website is DistiNCtlyFayettevilleNC.com. And the reason we went with DistiNCtly Fayetteville is because we are distinct. There is a lot of distinctness, uniqueness to our community. But the other component is there's a lot of Fayettevilles out there in this United States.
There are.
So we want to be distinct from those others. And so our name really highlights the NC in DistiNCtly. And so the highlight of NC is in there, so it'll help us distinguish ourselves from those other Fayettevilles that came along later. So, but our website is the number one resource. We want to have as much information up there as possible. And we also have 2 visitor centers that we operate here in the city. The first one is where our offices are at 245 Person Street. And then the other one is at the History and Transportation Museum. And so visitors, residents, anyone can come in, and Monday through Friday at Person Street and added on Saturday at the Transportation and History Museum, folks can come in and they can talk with us and meet with us and get some ideas about what they want to do or discover some new aspects of the community.
And I know you have a social media presence as well.
We do. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. We're on LinkedIn. We also just recently got on to TikTok. So we're excited about exploring.
You're covering
that.
a lot of ground.
We are. We're trying. There's different audiences at different platforms, and so we want to make sure that we get the message out to everyone as much as we can.
Well, thank you so much for being our guest on the Fayetteville 411. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you, and I know there's going to be great things in store for DistiNCtly Fayetteville.
Well, that wraps it up for this episode of the Fayetteville 411. The Fayetteville 411 is one of several podcasts that the city produces for our podcast channel, Radio Fayetteville, as we provide timely and informative updates on a variety of topics related to the city of Fayetteville. Be sure to subscribe to Radio Fayetteville on Apple iTunes, the iTunes Podcast app, Spotify, TuneIn, and more.
You can also listen to every podcast that Radio Fayetteville has to offer by downloading the Fay TV streaming app, available on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire. You can view all of our video content by visiting faytv.net. And to get information about city services, go to our webpage at fayettevillenc.gov. Thank you so much for joining us.